right, what's going on, man? How you doing tonight?
Yo, what's poppin'? How we doing?
So, my name is Sugi. This is going to be my guest for our very first episode here at Kado Games. This is Greg. How you doing? What you up to?
I had tacos for dinner because we're recording this on a Tuesday. By the time you hear this, it may be a Tuesday. Who knows?
It won't be a Tuesday when it goes live, but you never know.
They were delicious. I took a 10-minute nap before recording. Mainly just to have like a nap that's akin to kind of like an energy drink. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like you have like a power nap and it feels like you just chugged a Monster beforehand. I'm friends with this guy. He, is a local game store owner here in the Central Florida area. And his tactic whenever he felt like tired is that he would chug an energy drink. This is not advised, by the way. Don't try this at home, everyone.
Don't try this at home, folks.
He would chug an energy drink and he would take like a 30-minute power nap, as he would call it. And he would claim that like he would wake up from that nap and that would be like the best he's ever felt in like years or something.
And after he woke up,
I guess so, but also like it's you also have to hit the timing like just right, because like, okay, for example, if you chug the energy drink and you're caffeinated enough to where like you're caffeinated, then you can't sleep. So you have to like chug the energy drink and like immediately fall asleep, because otherwise if the caffeine kicks in, you can't take the nap. So like it seems to be like it seems to be a tough thing to pull off, but I don't know. Apparently he swears by it. I didn't chug the energy drink. I just took a 10-minute nap, but that's kind of the feeling that I was trying to explain with my nap. I was trying to wake back up and be ready for the show, and I guess we'll find out if I am, right?
Yeah, right. So for everyone who's listening, this is a brand new show about games. Trading cards, video games, board games. I myself specialize pretty heavily in trading card games, so it's going to be focused on that. And Greg here is an expert on trading card games. We used to have a podcast together. You're always welcome to come on the show. So, you're going to be on a lot. But why don't you tell people who are listening a little bit about yourself, the games you're playing, talk a little bit about your knowledge of like the market of trading cards, because we will talk about that a lot too, just because it's fascinating that you have like collectors, you have players, and then you have like people who are like tuned into the business aspect of gaming, specifically trading cards.
Yeah, I'm like the Venn diagram in the middle where I'm all three.
Yeah. And it's so rare because most people kind of lean towards one of those. Like, for example, business people generally aren't players. They might collect. Collectors usually aren't selling, but they might play, and players usually are not collecting, they might sell. So they, like, most people have like a primary and a secondary, and then the two of us actually kind of touch a little bit of all of those realms, depending on if we're going to a tournament, if we're collecting something we love, or if we're working on our websites or trading card game or TCG player stores. But yeah, who are you? What are you up to? What do you play?
Yeah, we're keeping the ocean pretty wide. We have a lot of topics that we can cover. And I will add to that last point that you said. Sometimes being a player, collector, and, on the reselling or whatever we want to call it, TCG player singles market sort of things, sometimes they can be huge conflicts of interest. You know what I mean? Sometimes it can be like, I want to sell this card because I think it's high right now and I think it'll go down, but I want to play in locals next week, so I probably shouldn't sell it. But if I want the most value for my money, I probably should. You know what I mean? So like it creates like kind of these funny like paradoxes, I guess, where you're trying to serve like two different masters almost. But
you have to have this like do you remember the old switchboards for like telephone calls where you have the operators and they're like patching people through from point A to point B? That's kind of how our brains and hearts work, where it's like, I pulled this really cool, expensive card in foil. I should sell it, but it looks really cool on my collector's shelf.
And plus, if the other 59 cards on my deck, if I get those in foil, then that would just be perfect, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And then you realize that's going to cost lots of money, or you could sell it and buy the most common rarity version and still have the card, but not the cool version of the card. But then you have money in your pocket and the card, but you're not cool with the flex. Like, ugh.
Yeah.
And your collector wall is naked and you feel bad.
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head there. But anyway, yeah, since I'll actually answer your question. Who am I? Hello, I'm Greg. A huge trading card game enthusiast. I have been for probably most of my life. I'm probably a bit on the younger end for many of the people that may be listening to this. I'm currently 23. And I started playing the Pokemon trading card game probably around when I was in elementary school. So I'd probably say like 7 or 8 years old. And I was one of the rare breeds of children on the playground that actually read the rule book that was included in the starter decks. And so throughout my childhood, I was trying to tell, to probably not much success because I don't think kids really had the patience to play the Pokemon trading card game. It's kind of just a phenomenon that you see a lot, especially in early elementary school kids. But it's like, yeah, you have these energy cards and you attach them to your cards, and that fuels the attacks. The attack, you know what I mean? So like, I knew the game. I don't think I was very good back then. I mean, I wouldn't know. I don't have a time machine. I don't. My my locals records did not indicate that I was very good at age 7 or 8, but who is, right? So I mean, no harm, no foul. And I think ever since that day, my parents that Christmas, I think it was Christmas 2006, they had like a big candy cane, like plastic candy cane filled with booster packs of Pokemon cards. And I think ever since then, they didn't really know what they started, and it's kind of been just a mainstay, a lifestyle hobby. I think a lot of people in this space like to say, drinker games are a lifestyle hobby. It's been my number one lifestyle hobby ever since. Um, Fast forwarding a little bit, probably the first game that I took at like a casual competitive level is Bushiroad's Card Fight Vanguard trading card game, released stateside in 2012. I love that game. There's a lot of criticism that you could have about, how competitive the game really is. There's a lot of added variance within the game. I personally love that kind of stuff, something that may be a topic for a future episode or even later in this episode, but that's one of the trading card games that I probably will always stick with. You may call it Stockholm Syndrome, you may call it whatever you want it to. Honestly, I don't really care what you call it, but that's definitely going to be one of my main games for a very long time. I probably operate a lot more on the Japanese/Eastern trading card game side of things more than kind of the Western card games. So currently, I'm playing Card Fight Vanguard, Shadowverse Evolve, Unit Arena, and One Piece. So, just if the card has anime art on it, I'm probably playing that game. And then, of course, previously, Sugi and I have played the Lorcana trading card game from Ravensburger. And then I think it wouldn't be a stretch to say that we are lifelong Magic the Gathering players as well. So
Oh yeah.
that's kind of where I operate as well. But and through the years, probably within the last few years, I've realized that you're familiar with Mark Rosewater's typographics, like player typographics, right? Like the
Yeah.
Timmies and the
Yep.
Johnnies, and yeah. I only learned about this recently, but I think it describes me to a T. But there are Mel or Melvins, which are just like huge, like game design nerds, or just like mechanics appreciators, or however you want to say it. But I think first and foremost, more than the games themselves, I care about what it is about the system design or the card design of the game that allows the game to work from a consumer level, from a competitive level, whatever it is. Just the way that designers are able to make things click for the consumer, I think is of great interest to me. And that's sort of the thing that I look for when trying a new trading card game. It's like, what is I'm okay. I'll put it this way. I'm okay, or I'm a bit better with having a trading card game that has really interesting mechanics, but nails the execution a little bit, where it's like they fall just like a little bit short of getting the balance or whatever it is just right, than I am a game that has bog standard execution, or that is basically bog standard when it comes to the system, but has pretty good execution overall. So, that is to say that I guess you've seen like those alignment chart memes online. I'm kind of a mechanics radicalist, I guess you could say. I don't care if it's broken as long as it's interesting, right? So there you go. That's probably more information that you ever need to know about me and my trading card game history, but there it is out in the universe.
So how important is theme, since you're like the spectrum usually falls with people like a card game's theme. So for example, let's talk about like Disney Lorcana. It's a trading card game centered around Disney characters. So you've got movie characters, TV show characters, and there's a lot of history with Disney. And so I know a lot of people who like Lorcana because it's a Disney game. They may or may not care about the mechanics, but they really love the fact that they can have a deck with Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, and Goofy as their, in-game avatar. Now, on the
Mhm.
other end of the spectrum, there are people who like mechanics. They really couldn't care less what the theme is. They don't care if it's Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic. They want something that is mechanically sound, mechanically tight. Usually they want it to be very dense, very complex. So there's a lot of opportunity for players to express themselves with weapons or tools or spells or whatever mechanic the game utilizes. So that's generally the maximum spectrum of I like the theme or I like the mechanics. And then most people are usually in the middle. I like a game because I like the theme and the mechanics, or the mechanics and the theme. So if you had to, gauge yourself on that spectrum, are you saying you're closer to I really don't care about the mechanic, or I really don't care about the theme. I care more about the mechanics than anything else?
Yeah, I think I'm more in that latter camp. If these cards, I don't think it's a stretch to say on any given card game that I'm playing, if all the cards were, had blank pieces of art and they were just like white space, I'd probably still be playing them. I don't think I'm like quite there with that opinion. I think that there's a lot to offer when it comes to like the product side stuff too, where it's like, what character are we putting on which card? And, thematically, how do we tie in the gameplay with the theming? I think that stuff is really cool. But honestly, I think that is also a mechanical conversation as well, where it's like instead of form follows function, it's kind of like function follows form, where it's like you are trying to figure out what makes the most sense within the constraints of your game to loop your theming in together. And, there may be debate kind of on that. One thing that's interesting where it comes to theming as well is where it's like, some people like the concept of, having a tight theme within the game and like making sure everything flows together. One thing I've learned recently is that some card games, I think, have kind of, or I think a lot of the industry nowadays has kind of given up to its, I guess, mechanical masters, for lack of a better term, where it's like, take a Lorcana, for example, right? Your deck building is limited by your two colors, and you can kind of play like cards from all these different franchises. And from a gameplay purpose, the ink system makes a lot of sense, but also like for those of you who don't know, in Disney Lorcana, you have specific cards that can be used as ink to be placed face down within the inkwell and things like that. But that also
It's the main
creates like
resource for the game. You
that's right.
use the ink to pay costs to put cards onto the field and do stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, you play it face down. Most importantly, as Sugi has pointed out here, to pay the further cost of cards. Very key point that I missed.
It sounds like it's not like Yu-Gi-Oh, where you can just play whatever you want.
You just play things face down. Yeah.
Follow a very light restriction, air quotes restriction based for their resources.
Tell me how many times you've heard this one before. You have a row of cards in the back that you can turn 90 degrees that you then look at the top left or right of a card to pay for the cost of the card. Whoa, magic.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the broader theming point that I was attempting to make. It's kind of interesting too, yeah, because again, I think a lot of the industry right now is kind of sacrifice some theming for the sake of making the game playable. For example, Lorcana has that ink system. You turn cards in ink, and like it kind of is a head scratcher at first. You're like, wait, so I'm going to turn this character and smush them into ink ? So then I could use the ink to play a character ? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
There's some thematics that get lost when you like when you try to extrapolate theme from the game's mechanics and things like that. And I think that's actually a really good thing, or at least someone that has my, I guess, temperament or demeanor really celebrates within the game, because I'm sure that you were around for the early 2000s, like trading card game boom. The onset of success. Magic had already been around. It was very successful. Boom, Pokemon, first Japanese trading card game, came out, very successful. And then somewhere down the line, I think it maybe Yu-Gi-Oh was the third or fourth Japanese trading card game. Don't quote me on that. But came a little bit later down the line, very successful in the States. And so suddenly every media franchise of all time was like, we got to make a trading card game.
Oh, man.
They didn't care if it was
SpongeBob.
Yeah, there was Dot Hack, there was Mega Man, you're right. There was I don't know if SpongeBob had a trading card game.
Yeah, I have some of those cards.
There was the Beyblade
Naruto.
trading card game where you would
Yep.
simulate spinning tops as trading cards.
That's
Oh wow,
trading.
what a joy! What a joy that one was.
There was a Shaolin Showdown from Kids WB that had a trading card game.
I hear there's a Shaman King one,
Yeah,
a
everything.
WWE trading card game.
And
Anyway,
yeah, that's actually a good one. There's Raw and then there's a WWE. Those are actually really fun games.
I'm glad that some of them exist that are good. Anyway, the main point is just to say that every media franchise under the sun was like, let me get a slice of this pie. And, what they had failed to realize at the time, I'm sure they had, an influx of, quick flip sales or whatever you want to call it. But in order to have a successful trading card game, you need a group of players that wish to play and partake in playing your game, right? So if your game is bad, if your game is a mechanical mess, if your game is unplayable, unfortunately, your game cannot sustain itself because eventually, maybe not immediately, players are going to catch on to the perceived flaws of the game, right? And so one thing that I think we're in a really great time for trading card games right now in the 2020s era, I like to call it, where it's like, yes, a lot of games do have properties to them, like we see One Piece and Union Arena, which is basically just a property mishmash. And before that, we had Bushiroad's Vice Force trading card game. They do have properties associated with them, but the bar has been risen nowadays to where the bare minimum that you need for a trading card game to hit market is to be a playable game, right? The game is very playable. It has been play tested. It has designers. It has developers that take what the designers do, rework it a little bit, try to make it more appealing to the masses, more appealing to competitive players, things like that. And really, I think it's honestly just quite a blessing nowadays that we have, like if you pick up a trading card game, and of course there is one thing to say like, oh, this trading card game just isn't for me. Oh, I've tried Union Arena, or just like hypothetically, I do like Union Arena, but someone can say like, oh, I've tried Union Arena. It just isn't really my jam. I don't love the weird like four cards in front, 4 cards in back, and you can like move from back to front. Like that sort of gameplay doesn't really appeal to me or what have you. So like from a personal perspective, you can say, yeah, maybe this game isn't for me. But I think in terms of playability, every trading card game on the market that has any sort of like, sales figures or community for it is a very playable game. I would not like completely knock any currently, I guess, selling trading card game as a trading card game that's like completely unplayable. So yeah, I think we're kind of in a great age for trading card games, to put it lightly.
Okay, I'm gonna play devil's advocate here because
Okay.
I would love to talk to you a little bit about. I think you're correct. I think we're in a great place for trading card games. However, I want to bring up the thing I can hear other people thinking about, and that is the companies running the trading card game. So we've got lots of games that are fun. They don't necessarily have to be good. They don't necessarily have to be complex, but they're fun. You can play it with your friends. You can play with your family, whoever you want. However, there are a lot of things that happen when the corporation producing the company tries to put their hand in the mixing bowl and it goes a little south. So, that could be production, that could be distribution, that could be organized play, tournaments, whatever. All communities have a different thought because some game companies are not necessarily great at their tournament scene. Some card game companies aren't necessarily good at their balancing, et cetera, et cetera. So depending on who's listening to this, you're gonna have a different thought. But we all agree, like there's the game we love, and then the people running the game who kind of, and that's what I want to talk about. Do you think it's like a disrespect to the game, or do you think it's more of a we want to make money off of this product? Because I'm always interested to hear what people think because there's great games out there. I want to use Yu-Gi-Oh as a really prime example. I like Yu-Gi-Oh. I still have a million cards. I still play it on Master Duel, but there's this constant frustration in the community of Konami doesn't care. They just print power creep cards to sell product, and that's it. But there's still people buying it, and it's still one of the largest, most successful card games. So it's really interesting that there's so many people complaining, yet they keep Konami keeps doing whatever they want, and people keep paying for it. Whereas there have been hundreds of trading card games that have come and gone and died. So it's this interesting dichotomy of, well, is it really as bad as people are saying it? Or is this just like a small majority that's the loudest? Like, or maybe it is the companies that are ruining their own product. And I'm thinking of like, Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Lorcana, Star Wars Unlimited, Union Arena, Digimon, like all the Bandai trading card games. I don't think any company is innocent where it's like, we're perfect, we're fine, we make a great game and we're a great company. It's like everybody's got a little something they're doing that's a little rough and hurts the community.
Right.
So let's talk about that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of things to say. Obviously, not to get too preachy here. We live in a capitalist society. Of course, there has to be some balance between making an incredible card game and also making sure that the bottom line is satisfied, appeals to shareholders, stakeholders, things like that. And I think the different companies kind of on offer kind of give you a choice of what, I guess, less than desirable aspect of the trading card game you are okay with. You know what I mean? So this is one thing that I think, can kind of feel pretty liberating, especially if you aren't like, especially, I guess, tied down or married to the idea of playing one particular card game, or just like you're okay with switching between card games. You can kind of choose what aspect of the game you're not okay with. Like, for example, you were kind of running through your list earlier. Where it's like, oh, there are some companies out there that have a business motive and things like that. And, my entire time I was just thinking of things that Wizards of the Coast has done. I'm not even going to lie. I was, there are some companies out there. And it's like, just talking about Magic. I'm just kidding,
I want to be very clear. I'm not thinking of any company in particular, but I'm fully aware that if someone's listening and they're part of like the Magic community or the Digimon community or whatever community, they're going to be thinking about their game and the parent company running that game, and then they're going to have specific gripes with that company. We play so many games. There's a lot of companies we can talk about. So I'm not trying to like point a finger and go like, Wizards of the Coast, you're the problem.
No, I'm pointing the finger. Wizards of the Coast, you're the problem. That's me.
Yeah. I want to talk about the overarching question of companies make games we love. But there are also products that need to be sold to make a profit so the company can continue doing what it does. So, like, where's that necessary evil of, hey, we've got to make a sellable product versus we need to make a game that's just fun? Because, like, if all games were fun but not, like, sellable, or, like, okay, here's a great example. Say Wizards of the Coast, just, again, for argument's sake, they just came out with Foundations. A really cool new like a soft reset core set for the game. I think it's a great idea. Let's say, in the future, maybe in a couple of years, they come out with a new game plan for Magic the Gathering, and they're going to cut the cost of all the cards. They're going to cut the cost of everything. They're going to make the game super accessible, super fun, but they're going to make it like dirt cheap. Like, packs like $2. They're going to print to the moon. Well, I don't know if that's a good thing because there's going to be so much product in the market that your cards are worthless. However, it makes the game extremely accessible because your cards are worth pennies, but that also doesn't feel good as a collector or a business person to hear, oh, hey, Magic's just going to print, 500,000 times as much product and now the game is worthless. But it's fun. So like there's this weird balance of like it needs to be fun. It needs to bring new people in, but it needs to have a value so people are constantly buying product to try and get a good hit to then sell it or trade it. So like, what's that level of necessary evil before it becomes like, decrepit or like, greedy? Like what I'm talking about here?
Right. Yeah, and I guess kind of tying in with what I was alluding to earlier, I think it's really up to the consumer and, not to be like, oh, all the, all the decision point comes to the consumer here. Cause, certainly there are things that companies can be doing that are better with their game. But if we take a look at it realistically, the consumer can kind of choose what company or what games practices they are okay with. Like, for example, Wizards of the Coast, there's a lot of things they've done that I've disagreed with in recent times. 30th anniversary, their secret layer.
No one like 30th anniversary.
No
Come
one
on.
like 30th anniversary. I have mixed feelings on Universes Beyond. I don't love their secret layer, just their whole entire process for secret layer, especially the ones that are just limited quantities. We have limited quantities of this one available. If it sells out, they put you in this god awful queue. It makes you feel like you're waiting for a Supreme drop or something like that.
You're trying to buy the Marvel set and get some.
Right. And so but that's the thing. So this thing, I haven't experienced any of that. I didn't crack open 30th anniversary. I'm not particularly buying into Universes Beyond sets, and I'm not going into secret layer queues, but I see my friends are going through all this stuff, and man,
SpongeBob looks fun, man.
I'm glad that, I'm sorry that process sucks for you. I'm sorry that it's a shame. It's really hard to get these secret layer drops and things like that. I'm going to be completely honest. My commander deck that I still play to this day, it's actually right in front of me as we record this show right now, is a Temur Landfall deck, and I have not upgraded this deck since 2021. I have just as much fun. Oh, my commander is Thrasios Triton Hero and Tago, a Goblin's Weaponsmith.
Ooh.
So it's basically like a Temur value pile. I absolutely love it. It's everything you want to do in Magic. You draw cards, you play lands, you get bonuses for playing lands. It's a gift present just for existing. You're going to be playing lands anyway.
Is Temur blue, green, red?
Temur is blue, green, red. Yep.
Yeah.
And then eventually you have some sort of natural order, Creator of Behemoth's finish where you turn all of your rocks that Tago creates. Because every single time you play a land, he creates a rock. You don't actually care about the fact that it's a rock. Sometimes you can king make, I guess, a little bit with the rocks. But most importantly, if you're actually trying to win, you Cyber Drive Awakener and turn all your rocks into creatures, and then you create a them, and then you win.
So it's a Charlie Brown deck. It's I got a rock.
I keep on making that joke. It's the October, it's a Halloween Charlie Brown special. I got a Hershey's bar. I got Starburst. I got a rock.
You got a rock.
But anyway, sorry, not to get sidetracked. So I have my legacy piles. I play Days Wasteland, whatever the tempo shell is. So it used to be it's the Knights formerly known as Delver. The deck formerly known as Blue, insert color here, Delver. Recently I got my Final Fuel Duels for that. I've owned a lot of it for years. I've owned my commander deck for years. Those are what I play. I do not participate in brand new product launches for Magic the Gathering, right? So and I'm perfectly okay with that. My legacy deck is still good. My commander deck is still good. Days Wasteland will always be a strategy within legacy that is probably going to be one of the best, not going to lie. It has been historically. It still is very good right now. And so I can choose to opt out of everything that is poorly thought out about Wizards' marketing strategy right now. I can say, nope, I'm not doing the secret layers. Nope, I'm not buying the foundations. And I'm completely okay with that. I can continue to play Magic and Commander. Can you actually believe that? I'm not buying any new Magic product, and I can competitively in quotes for Commander, but I can have a great casual competitive experience with Commander pods, and I can have a great competitive experience with my legacy decks. And and granted, the barrier to entry for legacy is very high, but isn't that wonderful? I don't have to buy any new cards to play Magic, and two of my favorite formats of Magic, no less. And that can be applied for every trading card game out there. When the business has
not the younger ones.
Well, when it comes to not participating in particular aspects of the business that you don't like, so some trading card games you have to buy the new product lineup. You know what I mean? Yu-Gi-Oh! You have to buy the new cards.
Well, no, because they have multiple old head formats for people like me.
Right.
So there's Edison and Go format.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could basically you can just pick a format you like. So you can do a Teledad format. You could do E-Drag. You just go back to a banned list at the time, and you use those banned cards. That's it. But usually it's Edison and Goat format. Those are the two really popular versions between air quotes legacy players, because there isn't a legacy format in Yu-Gi-Oh! And then Pokemon has their
Rotation.
version of Modern. I cannot remember what they call it.
Expanded.
Expanded, that's right. But the one that's picking up steam is Gym Leader Challenge, which is a singleton format. And I love that format. You can only have one of a card. There's a specific ban list, so the broken decks don't exist. And then it's from a very long time ago in a galaxy far, far away to when. I mean, it's great. It's the Commander version of Pokemon, and there's still so much innovation because I think GLC came out in like the COVID times, like
Yeah.
2019, 2020. So it's a very young format because like Commander used to be called EDH back in the day. So Commander has been around for a long time. And there's so many cards and permutations. And there's power levels. You could play with friends for fun. You could play competitively with CEDH. You could play semi competitive. You know, maybe everyone puts $5 in, winner takes home, you know, $20. Who knows? There's so much going on.
We need to definitely play a Commander game where that's our format, so we can be anti $5.
I will win one, and then I will never win any ever again.
Okay, well, you better make that one count because that
Yeah,
means you're allowed
right?
to play 3 more before
Pretty
you're
much.
back at stage 0. You know?
Fair enough. But yeah, I still want your thoughts on, you know, the air quotes evils of these corporations, because you actually are in a weird place. You've bought your decks, you've paid your money, and you don't have to upgrade at all.
Mhm.
Not many card games follow the same pattern as Magic. Especially the younger ones. Like again, I'm thinking of like Union Arena, the Digimon game, the Lorcana, Star Wars Unlimited, the Alestrals, Altered, all these games that have, you know, a year, maybe 2 years or less under their belt. There's just not a card pool to do what you did. The players
Right.
are pretty much forced to buy new product in order to participate. And unless you're the person who just buys like one set and like that's it, I'm never buying anything else again, Magic has many, many decades of cards. So you could do that. You could just spend a ton of money, buy your legacy deck, and that's it. But for example, like Lorcana is a big popular game. Let's use them as an example. You can't do that with Lorcana. There's not enough cards
Right.
to buy a
But there
legacy
is
deck.
like you
What
have
do you
the
do?
ability to engage with the hobby with like with less predatory practices, I guess we'll put it, right?
Okay.
So like
Okay.
I mean obviously the entire secondary market exists, and I will, I guess, grant the idea that there is a non-zero amount of time in which a new trading card game player gets into the hobby and doesn't know that tcgplayer.com is the place to go to buy all of your single cards that you need, right? But like you know what I
I mean,
mean?
we both have a store, so yeah, we'll
Go to
chill.
go to Kado Games on tcgplayer.com to get
Yeah,
your
we're,
singles,
we're
right?
there. Yeah, right.
And so like, you know, the hobby is expensive, and I think that's just something that we have to acknowledge. But there are ways to make the hobby less expensive than it otherwise would be. You know, picking up singles is one of those, you know, I
Well,
guess key
I'm gonna have to
ideas,
make an
right?
argument here. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be expensive.
It doesn't have
It,
to.
it's
Yeah, I mean,
expensive if
for
you're playing in
example,
tournaments.
Pokemon Trading Card Game is knocked it out of the park with this. I
Oh
think
my gosh.
they're only allowed to do this because the size of Pokemon's conglomeration is as big as it is. You know, but they release like this quarterly league battle deck that's just a competitive deck out of the box. Like, and you'd be like, oh, it probably needs a couple upgrades, right? For the
No,
most
yeah.
part, no. For the most part, it doesn't.
Well, okay. So I'm an old person, and
Yeah.
I do have to say this is a new strategy Pokemon just started in the last couple of years.
Mhm.
Pokemon used to be a very expensive hobby. Like I should clarify again, if you're playing competitively. So if you're playing
Right.
tournaments and you want to win tournaments, local, national, geographically, wherever, Pokemon decks used to be about the same price as Magic decks. They'd be hundreds of dollars. And recently, Pokemon got smart, and not only did they begin to print their really good cards in multiple rarities. So if you want, say, the super duper hardcore Gardevoir or Mew or Mewtwo or whatever Pokemon that's doing well in the current meta, it used to be printed at like one rarity. It'd be like super rare, ultra rare, and there would only be like, 4 ultra rares, 5 ultra rares per box, and you'd have to buy multiple boxes. So a card in Pokemon that you needed 4 of would usually be between, like $25 to $50. And then you would need trainers, and you would need energy. Doesn't cost anything, but usually you'd have like a core skeletal system of like the Pokemon, and then you'd buy the trainers, but the money really was in the Pokemon. You'd be spending a lot in those EX, GX, whatever Pokemon. And then your trainers were, a couple bucks here and there. They usually weren't more than $10, usually. So that's where the secondary market made a killing. And then recently Pokemon decided, hey, why don't we make these Pokemon that people want to play multiple rarities? So here's a, double rare version that costs like $1. Here's a super rare version, full art, that costs like $5. And then here's a rainbow art full royal rare that's like $70 to $100. So collectors can go for the big hits. Box breakers and resellers can try and get, big money, but the players can build a deck for, I think the current tournament decks are like $50. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, I kid you not, I think that Charizard Pidgeot League battle deck is literally just the competitive Charizard Pidgeot deck, like out of the box.
Yeah. I think you need like one trainer. Like, and they started doing this, like, I think a year and a half ago, they had that like Gardevoir Mew deck. And when it first came out, everyone was buying singles. And then the Pokemon company was like, oh, by the way, we're going to release this deck as its own thing for $30. And everyone was like, wait, what? So the cost of the single went down, the deck came out, and then everyone was like, if you buy this one trainer and this other Pokemon, I think you spend like an extra $20. So again, it goes back to like that $50. You buy the deck at MSRP at your local game store for $30. You buy a couple singles, boom, you have the exact same tournament deck that's winning at every level of the game. It's like, what?
Yeah, and I can't stress this enough. This only works because it is the Pokemon Company International that's doing it. Yeah, otherwise, I think that like a ballsy move like this would actually, like, I wouldn't say kill your game, but would like set your game on a market plummet that is really hard to recover from.
I think Magic's doing something similar with Foundations, though. Because did you see all the reprints? Like Doubling Season is back, not only in Standard, but here's the thing. Foundations is a 5-year core set.
Right.
So over the next 5 years, there's going to be a booty load of Doubling Seasons in the market. So what was Doubling Season before that? It was like $60?
Yeah, it was like a high end for sure. It was at least 50 plus, and that's always been true.
Now it's in the 30s, and over time it's going to drop. I don't think it's going to go under 20. I really don't. But you're talking about a card that has traditionally been 60 to 100 very consistently. There's only been a couple of printings. Mm-hmm. And now, but here's the thing. And I think the team at Wizards looked at Pokemon and they started to realize this is a very functional ecosystem, because they have the regular printing of Doubling Season, which is worth I think it's $35 on TCG Player. It might go up, it might go down. It's around that range. And then they have that cat version, the Japanese full art holographic foiling. That's, I think, $600 or $700. And it's the exact same card. It has the exact same text, exact same everything. There's just different art, different foiling. It's the full art Japanese cat version is much harder to find. There's much less. But if you're a collector, you want that super expensive version. If you're a player, you just get the $30 version. They both do the same thing. But that's the thing, is I feel like Pokemon set a great example of, here's how players can play the game without spending the traditional, $500 to $800 per deck. And now Pokemon players can have competitive decks for $50 to $100, which is unheard of. But if you want to buy product, crack packs, say you go to a tournament and they don't do money, they do like a booster box or a case. You want money in that booster box, potentially, so that way people don't say, well, the box is only worth $90 MSRP. My odds of getting that or more in pulls is like 8%. There's been lots of card games where you buy a booster box, you pay $100, and then when you look at your cards, even your highest rarity, it's like that card's worth $8.
Yeah,
Well,
and you're like, but wait, if I add up all the $1 rares, maybe I'll get halfway there to the price of my box. Copium, copium,
yeah,
copium.
yeah. So there's been games where they've tried to sell their product at market rates, which booster boxes are usually between $90 to $110, give or take, depending on the game. And you generally want to feel like the cards you pull out of a box equate to around 90 to 100, $110. So that way you don't feel like I could have just
Man,
bought these cards on the singles
wouldn't
market.
that be magical Christmas land if it worked that way?
It
Oh my
would,
gosh.
but usually you're not like you don't spend $100 and you get $20 in product.
Yeah, that's not the average. Yeah.
Right.
Honestly, I don't have statistics for things like this, but to me it's my general feeling that on average nowadays, if you crack open a box of a product for basically most trading card games in the industry, you're going to be walking out of your LGS with less money in the form of singles than you
Yeah.
did when you spent the money to buy the booster box.
What
Which
do you
is
feel like that percentage is on average? Like 50%? Like
how
let's say you spend
often is it that
$100.
you open a booster box and you
No,
don't
no, no.
pull your value box?
Yeah, I'll clarify. So let's say we just make it really easy. You spend $100 on a booster box of insert name of your favorite game here. What do you think people are actually taking home in singles value? If they were able to bust open all those cards, sell it back to the store at 100% of market value, generally denoted by a TCG player, do you think people are getting like 50% of their value, 60%, 70%? Like, where do you feel that value is? Because realistically, you want to pay $100 and walk out with $110 of singles in your pocket. You know what I mean?
Right, because like obviously all those cards you get in your box are not going to be ones that you want to keep in your collection, right? So
Right.
ideally you get like a little bit of value for your time or whatever, which is a whole can of worms that we'll talk about later, where like your time doesn't have to equal value in your hobby. You know what I mean? And that's actually a growing, I guess, sentiment that I've seen in a lot of trading card game minds that personally I find to be a little bit questionable. But yeah, to answer the question. Yeah, in my experience, again, I don't have data to go off of this. This is completely just me, I guess, coming out of
Just
left
gut
field.
feeling, gut sense.
In
You
my
open a lot of
experience,
stuff, and you
I
know a
do,
lot of people who
unfortunately.
open a lot of stuff.
On average, I feel like most of the time, if you're buying a box, and I can't stress this enough, if you're not getting wholesale pricing, if you're not buying discounted boxes, if like suppose a set just came out and your local game store is asking about the market rate for the box,
MSRP,
you're probably
yeah.
getting around 60 to 70% of your your invested money or expended money back in the form of cards.
Okay.
Is probably
That's
where I'd
about what I
pinpoint
feel.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, there is that I don't know the term. There's a term for it, but that there's that gamble sense of I spend $100 on this booster box of trading cards, but I could hit that $700 Japanese anime cat foil rare doubling season, and now I just one card is worth 7 times the value of this purchase. Now,
Yep.
now people know the odds are not in their favor, but there is still that chance you pull that super expensive. You're talking about these full art cards, these foil rares. In Star Wars Unlimited, there's the showcases. In Lorcana, Disney Lorcana, there's the Enchanted. Like all these card games found a way to attract the attention of collectors and players, because if you buy a booster box, Pokemon's a great example. Pokemon has so many different levels of rarity, and Yu-Gi-Oh does too. Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon are a great example of you can get a regular common Pot of Greed. It costs like 25 cents. You could get the secret rare quarter century hyperfoil. These are all terms I'm just making up, but there's different versions of Pot of Greed. There's a secret rare Pot of Greed.
Hyperspace quarter century.
Yeah,
enchanted.
hyperspace quarter century enchanted mythic foil alternate full rainbow rare art. And that version of Pot of Greed might cost $100. The the card, whether it's common with no special anything or the super deluxe foiled out alternate Japanese art with, it's a one of one, they do the same thing. They both draw two cards. But for collectors and businesses, the super hyper limited edition version is worth a lot of money, and the common isn't worth, the toilet paper you wipe your butt cheeks with. It's probably cheaper, not as comfortable, but you get the point I'm making. The cardboard doesn't change based on the text. It changes based off of artwork, foiling, limited quantities if it's numbered or signed or stamped or whatever. So people have that desire, that want of, I'm going to buy this booster box, and I really hope, depending on whatever card game it is, I pull that really high rarity or really limited, card. You think about, sports cards for like, football, basketball, baseball. You've got these like signed, autographed, there's only 10 copies of this card. And if you find that card is worth thousands of dollars. If you find the card without the, signature and the stamping and the foiling, it's worth $1. But there's that chance. You never know.
Yeah, it exists for sure. I feel like everyone in the hobby has kind of, I guess, fallen prey, or you've had those big moments where you get the exact card that you want. There's definitely a lot of moments that you live for when it comes to that. I'm a bit more pragmatic when it comes to this. You and I both, Sugi, we sell cards kind of more on the business side of things. And of course, one thing that's interesting about cracking boxes is that the more scale you have, meaning like the more that you get from a particular case or things like that. And I guess mainly Japanese trading card games, because their like product seeding is a little bit different because they guarantee ratios within a specific carton of boxes and things like that. But kind of paradoxically speaking, the more boxes you open of those card games, the less variance there is in what you're going to get. So, like, for example, a couple of years back, there was New Awakening set 8 for Digimon. I think it was called New Awakening. It was a set that had, a lot of Digimon O2 characters. So they had Imperial Dramon and, the Vmon armor forms. So like Flame Dramon and Lydramon, things like that. I got like 2 cases of that set. I dropped like $1,200 because an online retailer was running a sale on those boxes. And I gotta say, like, a normal person probably would be nervous about the polls or things like that and be like, oh, I don't know if this is going to shake out. But, I kind of took on the analytical lens. I know, like, okay, there's X amount of SRs per box. We get the X amount of alternate arts per box. We know that there is this chase card that we have a, chance of getting. And basically, I did the, I guess, spreadsheet calculations that, these boxes at this price would be a great point to kind of just go in on the boxes and, try to get some reselling going on with the boxes. And so I think that's actually an interesting point of, conversation where it's like, yes, it is just a pure like gamble if you're just buying one box off the shelf. You don't know the history of the cases. You don't know if your LGS is maybe doing shady things behind the scenes where they, map the boxes and then sell the ones that don't have this. You know what I mean? I would like to think that most LGSs are better than that, but I've seen a lot of things throughout my time in this hobby.
Well, did you get your 1,200 worth of value? Like, did you?
I did, yeah. Back? When it was all said and done, this is a pretty decent success when it comes to all those. But a lot of labor went into it. I opened a lot of cards. I profited, meaning like after all my expenses and after all my fees and taxes were done and things like that, probably around $550 to $600 on those boxes. So like it was a modest, like $20 an hour, whatever it was, when you finally like bring it down to the brass tacks, right?
But I think that's an interesting thing to think about is time versus money, because you could have just worked extra hours or got a second job and made the same amount of money versus trying to hopefully spend all that money and make it back by opening it, reselling it, shipping it, packing it, paying taxes on it, or you just, work at Starbucks for, I'm just saying, whatever. I don't know. I don't think Starbucks pays $20, but you get a second job that pays $20 an hour and you work what would that be like, 2 weeks?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's one of the most underrated aspects of it, and like that's actually why the margins on selling cards is so low. I mean, there's a lot of people in the hobby. There's a lot of people that want to try to make money off the hobby, and so what actually ends up happening is that a lot of people don't end up caring about the time or the labor that actually has to go into this sort of
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
And so, and a lot of people do it for the love of the game, really, quite literally the games that they are, being a reseller for. And a lot of it's, just kind of scratches the itch of a lot of collectors too. Whereas, when you're a reseller, you get to hold this product in your hand, you get to see what it's like, you get to make connections within the industry. So like, there's a lot of reasons for why you would want to do this over, the job at Starbucks, for example. But that's not to, I guess, undersell the idea that, of course, there are going to be hurdles and struggles and opportunity cost considerations where you're like, why didn't I just do this instead? Do I really have to be reselling cards as an attempted form of living? You know what I mean? So like those questions are all very real. And definitely worth considering as well. For me, I don't know. I have my own job. I'm cool with where I'm currently at, just working and stuff like that. Having this on as a little side gig, I like trading card games. I love them a lot. And so like, just trying to make some money here and there. And like, maybe I won't make a fortune off of it. You know what I mean? Like maybe it will be that modest $20 forever, $20 an hour forever, if I continue to use my money right. But yeah, just having that as a little extra added ceiling to my income.
Well, we should also talk about the fact that story with the $1,200, multi-case Digimon purchase, that is not 100% success rate every single time. Because
it's definitely not, yeah.
For that story you told, I'm willing to bet you have 2 or 3 stories on the opposite end of the spectrum where you spent money, you bought products of a trading card game and got butt cheeks on your pulls, and you like, well, I spent $500-$600 and I made maybe 200 in sales.
Yeah. Failed spec. I have a whole entire box of failed specs in my room. It's happened before. Some of them are a lot worse than others. Thankfully, sometimes with the bad specs, I'm able to get out kind of at like a minimal loss. Like I tried specking on a particular White Schwartz card when like the second season set got revealed, so I thought it was a good time to like buy up the copies of a particular one and then try to resell kind of a little bit later when the set launched. It didn't work out for me. Perhaps some may say that's me getting my just desserts for trying to do some a little bit of stock arbitrage. You know what I mean? Like,
I think it's funny that a lot of people use this term like speculation and getting out or getting out from underneath, and these are all business terms, so you can kind of tell where someone comes from depending on the way they talk about their experiences and their business acumen. Because I understand what you're saying, I just don't use those terms because most people aren't under, like they may or may not understand when I say I'm speculating into this card. I'm trying to get out from under a bad buy. It's like,
well, to most laymen, I'm a scalper, so I mean, like that's not neither here nor there.
Well, so yeah, you're not wrong.
I'm like, we prefer to use more nuanced terms such as reseller or TCG player singles vendor, or you know what I mean? Like we try to sound
yeah.
Right.
But like it's an interesting topic. We'll definitely have to have a business episode where we can just talk shop, because I think that'd be super fun. But I do want to kind of go focus back on the original question.
Mm-hmm.
What is the necessary evil? Like, are we always just going to be stuck with game companies doing some scummy things to make sales? Or maybe they're not doing scummy things to make sales. Maybe they're just not particularly good at operating the business side. So, there's companies that have like really bad band lists, or there's companies that are not particularly good at organized player tournament play, or, insert a wide range of complaints for the game you enjoy the most. Is that just a necessary evil? Are we always going to be trapped with, hey, here's a game I love, but there's like no organized play and I can't sign up for tournaments and they don't know how to run anything? Drat. Or do you think we're finally going to get to a point where companies will realize We need to keep the cost for players low. We need to keep the pull rates for cards pretty, even. We want some big hits so collectors and businesses can open packs and go, we just pulled a $800 card. Let's put it on our, website and, make some money off of this, because there's this kind of interesting symbiosis between the companies that sell the product and make money, and then you have resellers and stores and businesses that push that product, but they also work in the secondary market of, cool, you little Timmy, you just opened your booster pack and you pulled a card that is worth $100. No one in this room is going to give you $100 for that card because that's the trade value, but we'll give you $60 and then you can buy something else or get some more singles. Like there's this like trade, this like bartering system, because without a secondary market, all cards would be worth nothing and you're just playing it for the fun of it. It's at that point it's a board, really.
Here would be my answer to your question here, where it's like, how much necessary evil do we have to expect? Honestly, I think I'm just going to point to the North Star here, which is, honestly, you can, there's probably some minor criticisms that you can levy against Bondi, but I think Bondi trading card games is kind of the, I guess, the crown jewel example for a company that's doing things mostly right at the moment. They they have pretty decent reprint cycles. So like they have reprints for Digimon, for One Piece. They've done product second waves for Union Arena when that game first came out and there wasn't enough product on the shelf. Same thing with Dragon Ball. They're really pretty transparent with distributors, and distributors are transparent with the game stores about when things are available for pre-order, when you can start pre-ordering with your local game store. The secondary market sometimes can be expensive, especially for games like One Piece, but you can kind of know what you're kind of getting yourself into. And honestly, Bondi, I think their biggest evil right now is being so good at selling cards that eventually some people may spend a little bit over their means in order to acquire those cards, right? Like they have the premium Bondi set up where they have kind of their alternate art storage box collections, things like that. One Piece, we have the One Piece second anniversary box with a bunch of alternate leaders that recently went live for pre-order and things like that. And so, I think, and you could say like, I think Bondi is the absolute best in the industry right now. And you could say like, oh, well, that's because the bar is set pretty low. And I'd agree with that personally, but I don't think that we live, maybe it's because I'm a glass half full kind of guy, right? But I'm not willing to accept that we're kind of in this kind of wasteland of trading card games, or not even that, like not even trying to misrepresent what you said, where it's like, I don't think we have to live in a world where we have to accept negatives because the company can't nail a particular thing, because quite honestly, I think Bondi is doing a really good job. And there are some few critiques. It's really hard to get in One Piece and Union Arena events right now. It's really hard. They don't have capacity to meet the demand. Sometimes that's true in the product end as well. But I think we're like 70 to 75% of the way there with Bondi, and I'm just looking forward to the growth of the next few years. But not to make this show into like a glorified Bondi shill podcast episode, but like honestly, I think that's the example. I think they're really close to kind of that utopian, card game hobby situation that we may, I guess, clamor for, right?
The only thing I would say against Bandai is they just cannot keep their games alive for a very long time. They're constantly cycling through. Here's Dragon Ball.
I don't know if that's true.
Digimon.
I don't think that's true because all of their current
Digimon's on life support.
I don't know. I don't think that's true.
Dragon Ball isn't done very much.
I think the only one that's on life support right now is Battle Spirit Saga.
Is that still around? I thought that game died.
It's in circulation still, or it's in production still. So like, I think they just got set 6 or 7. Like there has not been an end of service announcement for Battle Spirits.
I don't know anyone who plays that game anymore. But like, we're getting the new Gundam game, and it's like, I'm excited about that. But at the same point, it's like, I know that game's going to be dead in like 5-6 years.
So, I mean, I think the big thing is that we don't have a big enough sample size right now. Like, we don't know. Like, time will tell on a lot of it. I think Digimon or most Bandai games operate on this level where they're just above, and you know, in some cases, well above the line that they need to be in order to be profitable and successful and justify their continuation. Right. I think Digimon is above that line. Recently, they merged the, I guess, Japanese releases with the English releases. So, like,
That was
that's
a smart move.
a very smart move. It's evidence that like they care about keeping this product line alive. And honestly, I think that's where it is. You know, like people talk about games being dead nowadays with a completely different context than people talking about games being dead previously. I've noticed that a lot recently where people say like, "Oh, well this game is dead, that game is dead." And I always have to like try to figure out where they're coming from because in my mind, you know, games like Dragon Ball and Digimon, sure, their local scene may be pretty small in your area. It may be like, you know, 4 to 6 players, maybe 8 on a good week. You know, that game definitely is not dead in my eyes, you know. And I think honestly, a lot of it has to do with a warped perception that the One Piece card game has brought about when it comes to, I guess, consumer perception of a lot of card games. You know, no game has to pull in One Piece numbers. No game has to pull in even a quarter of One Piece numbers to be a successful trading card game in the current market. Um, and so I'll try to think where exactly I am going with this. But you know, I think the main point is that like, you know, Digimon, I think is yeah, again, right above that line where it needs to like stay alive, continue having sets, be successful because they're still profitable. They still have a sell-through rate of their particular product with a decent degree of regularity, and I think that's all they're looking for. Because especially
I
a
guess
lot
we
of
should
the
probably
stuff.
clarify. Like in America, I don't think Digimon is doing very well. In Japan, Digimon is fine.
Sure, and like overall, that averages to, you know, the game is doing fine.
Right.
I don't have, you know, I don't have numbers for it. I'd
And
have to check ICV too. Personally, I think Digimon's doing fine, but again, that's more of a feeling than you know,
well,
here's
okay.
my
I think
data. You know what I mean?
we should clarify. You're living in Orlando, Florida. You have
Right.
access to Cool Stuff Inc., which I used to work for them. They're one of the largest game stores in that area, if not the largest game store in that area. And they're one of the larger game stores in America.
Right.
So your sample size is coming from a location where, what does Maitland have? Like 200 plus seats for events?
I think that's probably right. And do you know what's actually really funny? Maitland's not the biggest local game store in the area anymore, which is
Oh, who
probably
is?
crazy for you to think about. Yeah.
Who's bigger?
There is a Altamont location that I think in terms of sales they may not be, but in terms of physical space, Leighton Gaming in Altamont probably has close to 300 to 350 seats.
I need to come back and 'cause I used to live in Altamont, and that
Uh-huh.
place did not exist when I was there. I would have loved to see that.
Yeah, I think they're relatively new into the scene. Supposedly the owner is like a huge sports guy, sports collector guy, and then he branched out into gaming recently. Yeah, so far that store's been pretty good. They have plenty of
But
product
like,
on the shelf.
but that's the thing is you're talking about two stores that my local scene would kill and commit a murder for because I'm
Right.
coming from so I'm born and raised in LA. I've worked in Dallas, Florida, New York, like major cities. I've traveled for events and tournaments, and so I've been to like Chicago, Houston, like all these big places. My local game stores here, like a big Friday Night Magic, is like 20 people, and I'm used to playing at Cool Stuff where Friday Night Magic was 150 to 200 people weekly. Like that was the market you had to fight against to get into top cut to get prize support. And then here it's like, oh, what? 20 people. But I mean,
Right.
like it depends on where you are because like I'll go back to LA and game stores are much bigger. Dallas is the same way. But you've got people who live in smaller cities, smaller towns, and they're like you said, their game store, like you've got like 4 to 8 people as your average. And then 16 to 30 people showing up for a big event is legitimately large.
Right.
So it's
I
it's
think
all it's
honestly,
perspective. It depends on where you're coming from.
yeah, I think honestly the main point I guess I'm just trying to make or illustrate with that is that just because a game doesn't pull in a lot of numbers locally does not mean the game is not a viable product for the company.
Yeah, agreed.
It's like the product line can still exist. It can still exist in a healthy niche without needing a local scene that's huge or even existent at all. It depends on your demographic or area for sure. And yeah, I think you can criticize Bondi for sure on like I think they're diversifying their product lineup a little bit too much. You know what I mean? Like so far they haven't seen, I guess, the ramifications of that, but obviously something has to give. I'm 100% with you there. Battle Spirits, probably the writing is on the wall. It has been for a very long time. Within the next year, I'd anticipate seeing that it is with a heavy heart we must discontinue this product. You know what I mean? That
The game that
particular
nobody bought.
right. And then
Well, here's the other thing. Game stores denote the health of a product line too, because if okay, let's talk about newer games, for example. So like Lorcana. When Lorcana came out, there you couldn't find Lorcana. Game stores were trying to get as much product as they could. They were selling through it instantaneously. Some places were charging additional prices. So the MSRP was what, 140, 141? And you had
144, yeah,
something like that. And you had game stores that were saying, well, the market went up, so we're going to charge 200, 250, whatever, and people were buying it. And now I'm starting to see like sets 5 and 6, I think they're dropping down to MSRP like what, 120, and you're finding some of these booster boxes online for like 80, $90.
Yeah, there was a while in which Into the Inklands was like a $60 box on Amazon dump. It was crazy.
Yeah. So like if a local game store says we're going to buy a ton of set 1 for Lorcana and it sells a ton, and then like Into the Inklands was set 2. It was set 2, right? Yeah.
Into the Inklands was set 3.
That's right. That was Rise of the Floodborn set 2. So Into the Inklands set 3, nobody wanted. It's online for clearly $60 is either wholesale or below wholesale. There's no way anyone's making money. They're just trying to get rid of product.
Yeah, this is a cash. That's a cash flow. Like we need to move this product so we can afford our One Piece allocation next month.
Yeah.
You know
so
I mean?
basically, the business said we're going to spend $1,000 on buying this product. It's just sitting there. Nobody wants it. We're going to sell it at a huge loss, but that way we have capital to purchase. Like you said, there's this One Piece set coming up. We know we'll sell. So we'll take a 20% loss on Lorcana set 3, but we'll buy the new set of One Piece at wholesale, and we'll make 30% margin. So they don't take nearly as bad of a loss.
There's a net 10% there, right? Like if you lose 20%,
yeah. So that way their capital isn't trapped with Lorcana that's not selling, not moving, and now they have to spend additional capital to buy product. It's more like get rid of A to buy B.
For sure. And like for the game store, like of course, like it would have just been better if you just saved your money and bought the One Piece allocation to get 30% overall. But honestly, for a local game store to pivot like that, I don't think is necessarily like super like a bad thing, especially because you have the means to be able to pivot your, I guess, failed expense or investment into something that yields a lot better return. And, I think game stores like having that liberty to do that typically means that they're probably pretty decent, decently well off to where they are able to make those, I guess, business decisions to kind of sell at a loss for cash flow and then bring back in new, potentially more profitable endeavors, right?
Right.
Yeah. Oh, again, not to go too much into the business weeds of it, right?
Yeah. So what I wanted to say was for that specific example, seeing that Lorcana was really hot, and then it kind of dipped off. Well, that means that a local game store might not purchase as much product for sets 4, 5, and 6 because they know it's not going to sell. So they are gauging the health of a game based off of the purchasing by the players, and they're tracking that data of, okay, with set 1 for Lorcana, this is all just made up numbers, just so people know. We sold 1,000 boxes, totally insane. Set 2, we sold 800 boxes. Set 3, we sold 200 boxes. Well, now they have to look and go, well, this is a decline. So do we buy 200 boxes of set 4? Do we buy 100? And then if we sell through those, we buy another 100. So like the reason I say all this is if you're looking at a downward trend, your local game stores are going to have to make a decision and say, maybe we're going to pull back a little bit. So, for example, with Bandai games and like Digimon, for example, although it might be doing well in Japan, which I'm if I remember the numbers, it's doing really well in Japan. But in America, most game stores I talk to, they don't carry Digimon. They'll special order it from their distributor, but they don't carry product. Like they don't have singles, they don't have booster boxes, they don't have booster packs. It's more of a, hey, if you want Digimon, we'll get it for you, but we're not going to carry it. Now, again, we're talking about small Missouri versus Orlando, which has a lot of people. It's also a college town. So there's a lot of money going through. It's also, where Disney World is. So there's a lot of money coming through. There's a lot of people coming through. You have what, 2, 3 colleges out there? Because you got Full Sail, you got
Full Sail, UCF,
UCF. There's another one.
There's some further out.
There's so there's a lot of college people coming and playing games, and then you have your standard just player base in general that lives there. So your experience is 20 times the size of my experience, and I'm assuming the volume and cash flow is as well. But what does your Digimon scene look like? Because my Digimon scene is zero. Nobody here carries it or sells it. Do you have 100 people showing up to events? Or because One Piece is very popular everywhere. Like it's popular here, it's popular there, it's popular Sam I Am, it's Green Eggs and Ham.
Right. I mean, the Digimon scene over here in Orlando, I mean, it's not huge. It's like they're Cool Stuff hosts, and then my personal favorite, LGS, Haven and Castleberry. Shout out to the Haven Games. They host on Wednesday nights, I believe it is. They get a solid 8 to 12. Cool Stuff gets a solid 12 to 16. I think are the numbers.
Are they the same people? Some of them.
There's a couple Cool Stuff onlys in there in the mix, but for the most part, it's the same people. And that's the game isn't thriving with those numbers, especially in a city as big as Orlando, right? But again, not to sound like a broken record, but I personally are of the belief that games can exist within a healthy niche even without local communities everywhere in the US, and can still be worthwhile enough for the company to keep in print. And even if the game is going through a rough patch or whatever, the company can continue to operate that product line as a loss because their other product lines are doing a lot better. It's kind of like what you talk about in marketing class with the diversification of your product line offerings, because One Piece is doing so well, Bandai actually could, afford to operate Battle Spirit Saga as a loss. For example, that might actually be what they're trying to do. I don't think Battle Spirit Saga has been profitable for Bandai within the last year. Maybe it has been. I could be surprised, right? But I think the reason it's been alive for this long is that they're continuing to operate it because it's their flagship franchise in Japan. It is 100% proprietary. Bandai owns Battle Spirits. It is their IP. And so they don't have to go through any licensing, battles or things like that. They have 100% free reign on how they can operate the game. And so obviously if Battle Spirits could turn a 180 and there's something that they do that's oh my gosh, Battle Spirits is the game to play right now. It's gotten a lot better. It's going to have a growth of players, right? It is within Bandai's best interest to kind of keep it alive for as long as they can to kind of hope for that breakthrough, because again, it's their property. I think the same thing's true of Gundam. I think Gundam is proprietary, a Bandai property.
That's their gun. They do Gunpla and it's huge.
Right. And so, not to get on a huge tangent, but I think some things will definitely give with Bandai. Eventually some of these product offerings will go away. One of the Dragon Ball Supers will. There's no doubt in my mind. I think it's probably going to be Masters, not the new one, Fusion World, but it could be the other way. I've heard either side of that coin. Digimon might eventually. I think it'll probably have a good 10-year run, maybe. One Piece, unless the bubble goes pop, I don't foresee it slowing down soon. Or I think it's slowed down, but yeah, I think One Piece will be a evergreen trading card game for sure.
One Piece might be the fourth of the, there's the big three. One Piece could be the big four. Also, Yu-Gi-Oh could screw itself over and One Piece could become the one of the top three. It's possible.
Right. I think right now we've already gotten there. You know, we actually are in the big five of trading card games right now. So it's Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon,
Magic.
Lorcana, One
Yeah.
Piece. Yeah. Um. So I mean, in no
I don't know
particular
if
order, right?
Lorcana's in that discussion anymore.
Oh, I would have to link it to you. So I mean, again, this is imperfect information because it's an
Yeah.
ICV2 article. Um, it is true that Lorcana is based on their distributor information and their sourcing, that Lorcana is currently the fourth best-selling trading card game with their distributor information.
Okay.
Take that with a grain of salt. Obviously, incomplete information, but if that source is to be trusted, again, ICV2, they've been kind of like a hobby data sales. I don't know what to call them, information broker
Website
for a long
resource.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, resource. Yeah, I mean, if that figures to be trusted, Lorcana is the fourth biggest trading card game in terms of sales
What's
right
number
now. So
5? Is it One Piece?
it is. I think it is One Piece. Yeah. So like
I'm
that. That's
surprised
our
Lorcana's
top
outselling
five right
One
now.
Piece.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm not. I forgot. So I just came back from my honeymoon, and I did go to Disneyland, and there was Lorcana all over the place. I was like, "Whoa, this is cool." There is
Yeah.
definitely not One Piece in a theme park, so I guess I could understand that.
And what's
Also,
crazy
Disney
about
is
that
like
is that
giving like
like
promos for Moana.
I don't think
Yeah,
ICV2 is picking up on those sales at the parks. I think that's like I don't think Disney shares that information. You know what I mean? So like
yeah,
even then, like Lorcana may even have more sales than that article suggests. I would argue that that's true. So
yeah. I don't think Lorcana is going away. It's just I think it's interesting. I think Lorcana is way heavy in the like home collector where it's like, parents and kids. Well, so like for example, this is going to come out sometime in 2025. We are preemptively recording, but at the current time, it is December, early December, and Moana 2 is coming out, and Cinemark theaters have an exclusive Moana 2 promo.
get your Ancient Mew promo card!
Yeah,
Yay!
yeah,
Ancient Mew!
exactly. Yeah. So, like,
Woohoo!
there isn't a One Piece movie with a One Piece trading card. There's not a Digimon movie with a Digimon trading card. So, Disney is putting its full force behind Lorcana, which it should. And there's promotional stuff. So, like, D23 is their like super fan club, and you can pay for a yearly subscription service to get cool stuff. And one of the things you're getting is a Disney Lorcana promo. So, like, Disney's really going hard in the paint. It's not just here's this card game, do whatever, Ravensburger. It's Ravensburger's making a game and Disney is pushing it. Their World Championship is in Anaheim across from Disneyland. So like they're doing all the things we thought they would do, and it's like there's a
I'm not gonna
lot of
lie.
IP power for that.
Here's Lorcana do whatever Ravensburger feels true in some aspects, and it feels incredibly not true in a lot of other aspects. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't even know if I'll elaborate that, but
No.
if you know, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I think it's
uh,
interesting that from a store side, if you talk to a lot of local communities, I don't see Lorcana growing at a high rate. Most places I've seen are either stagnant, losing people, or like they'll lose someone and then they'll bring someone in. So it's kind of like a trade, like a shift. So I'm not seeing Lorcana growing at game stores at a high volume. Not to say I don't think Lorcana is dead by any means, but I think Lorcana has shifted from it was like initially like trading card game players were getting like hardcore, and now it's like, well, theme park people are buying it, people at home are buying it, people at Target are buying it, collectors or fans of a specific franchise. So like we just got Chippendale Rescue Rangers, which I love, and I'm really, really excited for more DuckTales. And the moment they do
woo!
Darkwing Duck, yeah, the instant they do Darkwing Duck, I am all in on that because there's a Gizmo Duck character, and Gizmo Duck, he's got his own card now. Well, he's in both DuckTales and Darkwing Duck. So the fact that he's already in Lorcana is like, there's got to be Darkwing Duck. It's got to be coming. It's going to come on. We've got Chip and Dale. We've got Baloo from Tailspin. Like they're literally hitting half of the Disney afternoon stuff. So like, give me Bonkers, give me Gargoyles, give me Gummy Bears, give me Darkwing. Like it's going to come.
You know what's
So
embarrassing?
What?
I was never a big Disney person. I played Lorcana more because I like trading card games than I did Disney.
Fair enough.
I could have sworn that Baloo was from Jungle Book.
He is. He's both.
Is
So
he from?
Baloo was originally from Jungle Book, and then they took
Uh-huh.
his character and created the Tailspin TV show.
Is it the same Baloo from Jungle
Yeah,
Book? That's the same.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so there's no
yeah.
like. Okay, so okay, Jungle
Well,
Book and
yeah,
Tailspin. Cool. All
yeah,
right, we got it. We did it.
yeah. Now all the other auxiliary characters are unique to Tailspin, so like Kit, Cloud Kicker, and all them. They're well, I mean, like Shere Khan is in there. Well, anyways, we're getting down a rabbit trail. So the point I'm making is on a in
Yo,
like
Rabbit Trail.
LGS.
That's my favorite card in Lorcana. Draw one
Oh
when it
my
comes
gosh.
enters, and then draw one when it leaves.
Yeah,
Oh my
right.
god. Yeah, nice rabbit, bro. Nice Rabbit Trail, bro.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting if you look at the metrics of trading card game stores. I don't know if Lorcana is growing at the rate they would want it. But the sales of Lorcana are good. And I know for a fact it's good because I have a lot of family members who buy Lorcana cards and they don't play. They're just like, I like this Mickey Mouse card and I think it's cool, which would make sense that it's the fourth best trading card game. But if you talk to like the local scenes, it's like our locals are like, sub 30 people and it's not growing significantly. And now I could be wrong. And again, it's dependent on the store, it's dependent on the city, it's dependent on a lot of factors. But like here in my local scene, we started with X amount of people, and it's pretty much the same amount of people. Some people have left. It's like we're not seeing 20, 30, 40 people start playing Lorcana every week. And I think it's kind of been the same on your side. Like, are you seeing big growth in the Orlando area, or is it just kind of like it's the same people, same old, like not much has changed? Like, what are you seeing
Yeah.
on your side of town?
I mean, I think Lorcana is a very steady seller. I think if there's nothing else that you can say about it, is that I think it's consistent. I think it will, it will win the tortoise of the hare, slow and steady wins the
Oh
race sort of
yes,
thing.
yeah,
Because Lorcana is not a game that is um, concerned with appealing to the kind of
flesh and blood
bubblish
player,
tendencies, or even like the super competitive players, right?
right?
But you know what I mean? Like, let's say that they won the most bombastic and like super super hype release ever for Lorcana, right? They would have done mechanically exclusive promos. They would have done
Yeah, right.
enchanted, super enchanted. Go on to
Con
a
exclusives.
con exclusive, Disney park exclusives. Go on the scavenger hunt. There's only 20 of these Mickey Mouse cards that exist in the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And so like they could have had like a crash and burn sort of strategy with their marketing, but you can tell based on the conversations with the design team, the things that we can observe as consumers with Lorcana, is that they are concerned with making, again, the set sizes speak for itself. 3 or 4 times a year, you will get 214 cards. Some of them will be enchanteds. There will be Disney Lorcana challenges, so you will get to go to regionals, 2 out of 4 seasons of the year. And then if you qualify, the other season will be for, worlds and continentals and things like that. If you like playing the game casually, cool. If you like playing the game competitively, there's also things here for you. They are not concerned with the most like pump. They're not concerned with crypto pump strategies, like they are concerned with making a steady selling product that has Disney characters you like, that may not have like super big spikes in popularity or super big spikes in sales. And for the most part, I think that strategy is how to do it right in this industry nowadays. Because I think there are a lot of fears about, I did say it at the start of the episode, it's a great time to be a trading card game player. But on the same, or, flipping on the flip side of the coin, right? There are fears that the game industry right now feels kind of bubblish at the moment. There are way too many games, and I guess there's more people as well, but it feels like the market is very saturated for a bunch of different games. Some of them are doing things very well. Some of them we anticipate, may make their exit within the next couple of years. In fact, I'd place,
Digimon.
I'd place, maybe. It pains me to say it, but maybe, right? I'm actually willing to put big money that a solid 10 to 20% of the industry will leave the market within the next 5-10 years. And that is just, as a matter of course,
Are you talking about
interest.
players or games? Like what are you talking about? Will
10% of like, title, game titles available to the market, or
what do you
maybe
think? What do
even
you think?
players as well.
Hot take. Like
What?
you think 10%? So like what games do you think are going to be gone in like 5-6 years?
Oh gosh. Okay, Battle Spirits. That's like the
Oh
free
yeah, no,
space, right?
dude, that's low hanging fruit. Come on.
The low hanging
Give,
fruit.
give us
Okay.
give us a real pick.
I
Not
am not
Pokemon.
very.
Yeah.
I'm not very bullish on Flesh and Blood nor Star Wars Unlimited. There you go. I said it.
Ooh. Okay. I agree. I think Flesh and Blood is in a little bit of a pickle. Now,
Yeah.
if they turn around, I think they can bring it back. But yeah, I do think Flesh and Blood's in a little bit of a problem. Battle Spirit Saga.
That's the free space.
Yeah, X gets the square. I think Star Wars Limited is fine. Okay, I should clarify. I like Star Wars Limited. I still play Star Wars Limited. Unless like something happens with like Asmodee and Fantasy Flight Games, Star Wars Limited should be fine. That game is in a great place. It's a lot of fun. I really like the draw 2 card system. Anyways, I think I disagree. I don't think Star Wars Limited is going to die. I'm very, very suspicious about the new MetaZoo that's getting re-released.
Wait, what?
Oh, you haven't heard about this?
Okay, that's hey Sugi, that's our second free space. Next one. that's our second free space. Next one. What are your hot takes, Sugi? Give me yours.
Oh my gosh. Well, okay, so I'm actually watching this unfold. Somebody bought MetaZoo and they're bringing it back, and that's it. That's all we know. We've that's literally the news.
Next.
Dang. Okay. The other game I'm really worried about, but I want to see do well, but I'm just twiddling my thumbs on, is Altered, and the reason why is we still don't have a marketplace for that game. The game company itself is I think they're called Equinox. They're going to be running their own secondary market. We could talk about this for another hour. There's a lot of things that bother me about this.
QR codes, the gathering.
No, it's not even that. It's that so the company that makes Altered has an app, and the app is supposed to have its own secondary market. Ergo, they're trying to get around eBay, TCG Player, Mercari, all of these websites, and they want to control their own secondary market, so they get to sell the cards and they get to dabble with the prices on the secondary market, which I don't like that. I think it should be player driven, not company driven. But I'm a business person, so of course I don't want a business to double dip where it'd be like Microsoft selling you a copy of Halo and then telling you, hey, we'll buy that copy of Halo from you for $10, and then we're going to resell it in our Microsoft store for $60 or for $50. And it's like, wait a minute, hold up.
Or even worse, Microsoft selling you a copy of Halo, except you don't actually own the game. It's a digital license.
We're not getting into that. Okay.
Oh wait, that's actually just how the game industry works. That's messed up.
Man, someone's got a chip on their shoulder. But here's the cool thing. So pros and cons. I like to try and stay positive. So cool thing is the way Altered works is really cool. When you buy a card, all cards have a QR code. You scan the code, it goes into your digital app. Great, you can track your collection. Also, you have a digital license that proves you own that card. Okay, I'm not super happy with that, but I understand that. And then in the marketplace, when it opens, they will set the value of the card. So say you get a card that's worth $20. Well, now we don't know exactly how the marketplace works because it's not open, but they've explained the marketplace to work kind of like this, where you have a card, you have a license for a card, correction. So you have a physical card in real life and a digital license for the exact same card. And say Greg wants to buy that card for me for $20. That's what it's worth on the marketplace. I sell Greg the card for $20. He now owns the license for that card, but he doesn't have a physical copy of that card. And then the marketplace, they take their cut, and I get like, I guess, let's say I get $18. So we make a transaction. I make $18. Equinox gets $2 back. You own a license for the card. The other problem is, unless they have some way for me to ship that card to Greg, they have a service called Print on Demand, which is kind of cool, but they also make more money, where Greg can now print as many copies of the card he just bought with that license. But he has to pay per copy of card. And there's rumors that you have to buy at least 20 cards at a time, and you have to pay for shipping. So really what happens is, it feels like, from my perspective, based on the limited information I have, is Equinox is double dipping, where they sell you the product, you buy a booster pack, open the card, it's like, cool, here's a $20 card. I sell the card, they take a cut, and then the person who bought the card has to actually have them print the card and ship it to them. So now they're getting more money off of that. And just, it feels kind of awkward, if that makes sense. I hope that was very clear in how that works.
I mean, there's like huge conflict of interest, right? Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like, in a way, it's kind of similar to the way that like ban lists work in a lot of card games, where it's like, hey, maybe the company that makes the game shouldn't be deciding what cards get banned in the game. Because and you've seen this before, Sugi, where there's a ban list that comes out, and like we go into this ban list and we're thinking like, okay, there's nothing in the game that's really oppressive. The metagame is fine. You know, we don't really need to have anything hit right now. And then on the ban list, the best 2 decks get banned. And we're like, huh, I wonder why that is. Again, the metagame's healthy, so like the, you know, what you could argue are the best 2 decks get banned. Why did they ban these? And then it dawns on you. The reason why these cards were banned is because there's a new product release next month. And the product release wouldn't have made any significant meta impact if not for the fact that the company artificially banned cards from tournament play to push products. Right? And so like, to kind of rubber band it back to the Alter TCG examples, like when the company also is in charge of, you know, like cross gameplay / market activities like that, it creates a lot of, I guess, externalities, or, you know, is the nerdy economic way of, you know, saying it. There are undesired aspects of the company being in charge of both of these parts of the game that can rear its ugly head, and I'm not going to lie for that. Thankfully, in the system that you described, really cool, where it's like I can get the, like, you know, so let's say I buy a card from you, right, and we're sitting across from each other at a local game store, and I buy the card from you. There's nothing stopping you from just handing me your copy of the card, right? So I get the digital license, and now I have the card. I'd imagine that would be how a lot of those transactions go, where it's like, probably a lot of Alter players will want to ignore the print to demand service like the plague, you know, like just get the license for the card. And actually is really weird because it flips on its head, where it's like, you could argue, and I think it's 100% true, that your license for the card matters a lot more than the physical card itself, which has never been true in trading card games. You know what I mean? I mean, typically, I guess your license to ownership is the card in most games. Right. So kind of like, I don't know, you know, in the spectrum between industry shattering and gimmick, I think I'm kind of in the middle. I think there are cool things that you can do with it. There is a conflict of interest, but
I understand why they're doing it. It's a French company, and if I remember correctly, I believe I heard on an interview that the marketplace will be worldwide. And so the idea was, if someone in America has a card, because in Altered, they have this unique system where there will be one card ever printed with certain stats and keywords and abilities. So one of the cool gimmicks and one of the big things that pulls people into Altered is there are a ton of these one-of-one cards, and like I said, they're called uniques. And so maybe it'll have like a slightly higher stat line, or it'll have a slightly lower casting cost, or, you know, it'll have this like special ability that no other card has. You know, it's like a pot of greed. It's like, you know, play this card, draw 2 cards, and you can stick it on an objective for victory points or whatever. So there's all these cards out in the wild right now at the time of this recording. And I'm assuming by the time this recording goes live, the marketplace will be up and some of these arguments will be a little bit moot, hopefully. But the thing is, like, we don't know if the market. Oh, I'm sorry. I should go back to my story. So the idea is someone in America pulls this card, this unique card that has all these cool things, and someone in France wants to buy it. Well, they can get that license through the app. They don't have to pay for shipping, which is astronomical. And what they would do is when they place the print on demand order, the card would actually be printed in French locally at a warehouse closer to that person. So it allows people across the world to trade and sell cards, which is a cool idea. But again, it goes back to,
but it also like nothing's
Equinox is
stopping you from doing
controlling.
that. Like just I've shipped things internationally probably hundreds of times in my day. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing stopping you from just doing that. Yeah.
But it's cheap. It's more than likely cheaper to pay for that digital license and then just buy the print on demand version from Equinox versus I bought it from Greg and now it's going to take 2 weeks to go through customs and all that stuff. Because they said when they do the print on demand, it shouldn't take more than a week to get to you, which is pretty okay. And they said they're supposed to have printing in native languages in native countries. So you're able to print on demand in America from a printer somewhere near North America. And if you're in, Europe, you can get it from the printer in Europe. So it keeps costs down and it keeps shipping speeds high. There's a lot of things that sound good on paper. The problem is we don't have the marketplace. That's a huge selling point. And I'm just waiting to see, like, are these cards going to be worthless? Are these cards going to be going for thousands of dollars? Like, what is
it's
the
also
print on
weird
demand cost?
where like it feels like the physical cards themselves feel worthless. You know what I mean? The thing that matters is
They
your
kind of are in a
I hate
weird
to
way.
use this word because it's very loaded, but like the thing that holds value is the NFT on my phone. You know what I mean? Like the little altered license that I have, right?
And that's the thing I'm interested on seeing. So like on Twitter, they just posted that there's a new set coming out in January. And a lot of people are like, hey, when are we getting the marketplace? We have no idea what the value of our cards are. Yeah, I haven't seen a response. Again, at the time of this recording, it's very early December, and all of these questions might have been answered. So I'm trying to future proof this episode a little bit, but it's just kind of awkward where the company is going, hey, here's set 2. What about the marketplace? Hey, here's set 2.
Right.
So Altered is on my very big question mark list of, will this game survive? It's fun. I do like it a lot. Unfortunately, my local scene, there is no one playing or selling it here. It's just kind of, again, it's the classic, we'll buy it for you from our warehouse, but we're not going to do anything with it. So I'm like,
and do you know what's the
man.
worst part about it? Like they're doing these things, they're a little bit different. I suspect it's something that's going to work better in paper than it does in practice. I mean, that's just my, I guess, realistic outlook on it.
The other thing is there's this Altered is having the same conversation that a lot of Japanese TCGs are, and that is in America, Altered is not doing particularly well, but in Europe, it's doing fantastic. Just like a lot of Japanese games like Battle Spirit Saga or Digimon, where in America, there's just not
Mr. Sugi. In Japan, Battle Spirit Saga is just called Battle Spirit. No, I'm kidding. I'm messing with it. Anyway, yeah. So for Alter, it's so weird. So they're doing innovative things for the industry. I think it works more in paper than it does in practice. But honestly, the most heartbreaking thing for me to say is that I played Altered before. I think it has decent gameplay design. Like I think the play patterns are pretty interesting.
Yeah.
It's a fun game. I would have just preferred it if it was a standard card to pack to consumer release where you trade your cards. There's a secondary market that the players form. I would have much preferred it if Altered was just a traditional trading card game release without these added bells and whistles. And it kind of breaks my heart that these bells and whistles have been added, because I honestly think it waters down a otherwise perfectly playable and honestly even good trading card game.
Well, so there were a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? There are a lot of fears and concerns that Altered was a NFT cash grab, and the team had to go on record with marketing and podcasting and articles and whatnot and say this is not an NFT cash grab.
Yeah, they had to fight. Yeah, they had to fight the narrative.
But that worries me that before the game is ever out, they have to do damage control, telling people, no, your cards are valuable and the license is not an NFT. And it's like, well, I mean, you're not technically wrong, but at the same point, like you said, I feel like that license holds more value than the physical card. And
Yeah, it's like I mean, like
if Altered, I agree with you. If Altered was just a standard trading card game, we would never be having this conversation. It'd be, hey, I've got this cool unique. Do you want it? Yeah, $20. Cool. PayPal me and I'll ship it to you. Like that's it. That's the conversation.
Right. Yeah, it's weird because like, I mean, it blurs the line between NFT for sure. Because like I mean, obviously it's not crypto, it's not blockchain based, right? But like, what's the difference between a digital asset that's on the blockchain that you can buy, sell, and trade versus a digital asset that's not on the blockchain but is on this proprietary application that a company owns that you can buy, sell, and trade? You know what I mean? Functionally, it is an NFT. You know, again, I hate the loaded language, but functionally, it is one. You know what I mean?
Like, I mean, yeah. I see where you're going with this, and I want Altered to do well. I really think it's a super fun. Altered could very well be a great recruitment tool because there's a lot of card games right now in the market that are very complex. And as you and I have been around for many years playing card games at high, low, casual, whatever levels, we're not really stopped by a onboarding point of, hey, this card game has a lot of complexity and it's very difficult and it's going to take a little bit of time to master. But for a lot of people, especially in my generation, they've got kids who are starting to hit like, teens, maybe they're, early 20s. And now is a great time for a new generation of trading card players to get in. And there's not a lot of jumping off points that are easily accessible. Like Pokemon's pretty easy to pick up. I think I've heard people say Pokemon's very complex, but I'm thinking of like the starter deck. Like we're not talking about a competitive tournament deck. We're talking about like, hey, Pikachu versus Charizard, very fundamental. I don't think Pokemon is very complex at a starter deck level. Lorcana is a great starting point. It's very straightforward. You can pick a theme, a color, or a character and run with it. And I think that Altered is also a very, very good jumping off point game where no matter how old you are or how experienced or inexperienced you are, it's a very simple game. You just need to get your 2 tokens to touch and you have different zones with different colors and that's it. It's not overly complicated. There's a lot that goes into it if you want to get into the sticks, but it's kind of like Othello, easy to learn, lifetime to master. And I think Altered is a great game. If someone's like, oh, yeah, trading card games, play Altered. It's a great game. It's a lot of fun. It's very simple. But I'm still worried about that market being controlled by Equinox.
Yeah.
Or whoever it is.
Anyway, yeah.
It's Asmodee. It's all Asmodee.
Is it Asmodee?
Yeah, Asmodee is the one who's running Altered. So they've got Altered and Star Wars Unlimited in the trading card game space.
My LGS has had no problems with Star Wars Unlimited distribution, but apparently had issues with Altered distribution. Interesting. I wonder what caused that, but anyway, neither here nor there. But
well, okay, don't forget it was a Kickstarter game.
Maybe it was before Asmodee had distribution. I don't know.
I believe so. Like Star Wars Unlimited is a standard distribution game where it goes to a warehouse, it gets split up amongst Diamond, Allegiant, South, what is it, or Peach, whatever. PhD. There's a bunch of there's a bunch of distributors. Altered started as a Kickstarter, but moving forward with set 2 and beyond, to Infinity and beyond, they should be doing the standard distribution warehouse thing. So I feel like set 2 with Altered will be much easier for your LGS to get hands on because it's coming through a traditional route versus we have to fulfill Kickstarter pre-orders and then we have to fulfill LGS Kickstarter pre-orders and then whatever's left over goes to Gen Con and then whatever's left over from that then gets to go to distribution kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
maybe it's more direct, straight line in.
Now it should be. But I feel like a lot of these offshoot games that aren't a part of the big five. I mean, the big three will always just be there. It's going to be Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh. They're unless something horrible happens, all three will just be there. They're pretty much cemented. So really, we're talking about everybody else. So I mean, I'm not surprised Lorcana is as high as it is. I really think the casual market is really where the money is on Lorcana. Just
Yeah.
people who love the characters. The cold foils are beautiful. I still think the cold foils for Lorcana are absolutely gorgeous, and I wish more card games
Do
would
you think
do.
that?
I do.
You
I
think the
do.
cold foils in there kind of look good?
Some of them. Some of them.
Oh, yeah.
I,
All I gotta
well,
say is I
okay.
saw
Would
Flesh
you?
and Blood cold foil and I've never looked back. Oh my gosh.
Flesh and Blood cold foils are great, but the problem is some of those are like hundreds of dollars, and I'm not paying that.
Right. I just want all of my Lorcana cold foils to look as good as even the most basic cold foil in Flesh and Blood.
Okay. I can admit, yeah, the Flesh and Blood cold foils are for the most part superior, but you don't get a cold foil in every pack like with Lorcana.
Right. Yeah. So
So
you know
so
what would have
Lorcana
been
has the volume that I want, and Flesh and Blood has the art style that I want, if that makes sense.
right. I would have loved. Can you imagine if the Ravensburger just knocked it out of the park and like made their cold foils better? I mean, I would keep on. I would write until the cows come home if they
I
did
would,
that.
yeah, I would be very happy with that. So
Oh.
I'm assuming, based on the empirical data that we have, that Lorcana is selling in a combination of players, collectors, families, people who just like certain characters, people who think it's cool. People are at Disney theme parks and go, oh, there's like a trading card thing. I'm gonna buy some of that, and then maybe they get into it. Also, like right now, Target had one of their starter like learn to play boxes for I think it was like $8. It's quite
Yeah, they
literally like
called it Gateway.
yeah,
Lorcana
the
Gateway.
gateway
Yeah.
box, but it's perfect. Like, hey, I want to get into Lorcana with my kids. Yeah, buy that. It's $8. It's less than a starter deck. It's got everything you need. Like, I think
Although to
Lorcana
be
is
fair, I
what?
think $8 is like the we made too much of this product. We have to dump it price. I think
Sure,
Gateway MSRP'd
sure.
for like 20. I mean, which is still. I mean, yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
lessen your
Yeah.
point overall,
Well,
but
well, it was a Black Friday deal. So it's over now.
yeah, maybe. Yeah.
But the thing I'm trying to say is like Magic doesn't have great onboarding tools like Lorcana. If you have a child or a family member and you're like, what card game should I get between Magic and Lorcana 100% get Lorcana. It's a lot easier, it's a lot more accessible, there's probably a lot more connection points with the characters and
Mhm.
the environments that you'll enjoy versus, do you like Jace the Mind Sculptor or Chandra Nalar or Liliana Vest? Who? Do you understand how 5 colors works? Are you a black, white, red, green, blue, multicolor artifact player? Or hey, do you like Mickey Mouse and Goofy? Yeah. So like there's a definite ease of introduction with Lorcana. So I'm
For
not
sure.
surprised it's as high, but I am interested to know where those metrics are coming from because I don't actually think it's coming specifically from retail LGS stores. I think big box and theme
Right.
parks might have a big impact
I think they
because
skip out on it.
because
And
the
like,
LGS seems to be kind of like we'll support Lorcana, but we're not going to support the level we are like Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Pokemon. It's not selling like Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Pokemon, but we're
oh,
getting
best.
metrics from a website saying Lorcana is number 4. So like, okay, I'm curious, like, where is that coming from? So I think it's
I
like
think it's
across the
distributors
board.
to LGSs, which I think is the most interesting part. Because like across the board, if like retailers plus big box got factored in,
Yeah,
it's probably going to be like the numbers will probably be higher. I don't think it'll crack Yu-Gi-Oh's numbers because again, overall they're like
right.
Yu-Gi-Oh's numbers at big box still exist and
Yeah.
things like that. But yeah, I mean, we'll see where it goes. I personally do not, or I no longer have a horse in the race for Lorcana. I did sell out of the game. I had a great, I guess, year and 3 months with the game. I do not, I guess, regret any of the time with it. But yeah, I mean, eventually, I think I said earlier in the episode, I play 4 card games concurrently, and eventually something had to give when it comes to my time, energy, and money. And I decided that the first on the chopping block had to be Disney's Lorcana trading card game. But
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
still collecting
I
it. I
still
still
wish it
enjoy
well.
it. I'm not playing much of anything right now because I just got back from my honeymoon. So for the last couple months, it's been prepping, planning, getting ready for that. But it's on my list of things to look to get back into. But like there's the new Gundam trading card game that I'm interested in. I'm watching MetaZoo. Magic is doing a lot of things I like, and we're going back to Innistrad next year.
Yo, are we
And
gonna at least see you open a box of Code Geass on the YouTube channel? Just one Uni Arena Code
oh,
Geass.
well, that's also on my list of things. Is I feel like Union Arena is an answer to Weiss Schwartz from Bushy Road.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, it is in terms of like theming and the
Yeah,
aesthetics and things like that. Gameplay wise, they are
no,
worlds different, which
no,
I
no.
think is awesome.
Yeah. I don't think the games have anything to do with it. I think it's which company can get the cool license and the cool foilings. And I 100% think Bandai has the way better card foiling system over Weiss Schwartz, like by
Yeah,
far.
and I think the
So
game
I'm only
system
going
for
to
Uni Arena is a
collect.
lot better than Vice Shores as well.
Yeah. Oh,
This may
Weiss Schwartz
surprise
is
you.
a chaotic mess.
This may surprise you, Sugi, but right now, Uni Arena is my favorite card game. Like at the
I'm
current
not.
moment,
I'm not surprised at all.
you're not
No,
surprised. Okay,
not
it's
surprised
my
at all.
absolute favorite right now.
Yeah, Weiss Schwartz is, or I'm sorry, Union Arena is on my list of things to collect. I can't play it. Nobody here plays it, but I just want to crack boxes and get cool cards. How much is a booster box for Union Arena going for? Because the sets are smaller, aren't they?
Yeah, so what I've noticed around local game stores for me, it's around 75 to 80 a box.
Okay,
Of
which isn't
course,
bad.
if you buy wholesale, if you buy in bulk, there's deals to be had. We'll just say that much. But yeah, I
Where?
mean,
Okay.
it's not bad. I mean, I had 2 cases ordered from Game Nerds. They canceled on me. So shame on you, Game Nerds.
Oh.
But those boxes were as low as like 53 per box. Like, so if you order by the
Oh.
case, there's like deals to be had. There's like
Why did
bulk
they
discounts.
cancel on you? Do you know? Did they tell you?
Their reasoning was that their allocation was significantly cut from what they were expecting, but that could also just mean that they oversold to me,
Yeah.
I guess you got to give them the benefit of the doubt in that
Yeah.
scenario, but
Gundam is
unfortunately they
absolutely on
held
my
on to my
radar.
money for 4 months and then canceled. So what can you
Dang.
do about it? Yeah.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. Yeah, Gundam is on my radar. The artwork for Gundam looks so cool. I really like. Also, I do a lot of Gunpla, so it's kind of like you were saying, it's an IP Bandai can control. And as someone who loves Gundam models, it's like, well, I'm also a trading card game player. Take my money.
Right.
I don't
Yeah,
know if I'm going to play
Gundam's on my
Gundam at
radar for
all, but I'm
sure.
gonna definitely get like, and yeah, we'll crack a box of Gundam. We'll crack a box of Code Geass. We might crack more. It's going to be fun, cracking stuff on the YouTube channel. But like, that's the thing is there, like you said, there's so many games, and we have to prioritize what are we actually going to play versus what are we going to collect. And like right now, I'm looking at Magic and going, and Pokemon, like y'all are doing it right. I like seeing doubling season at $30.
Yeah.
Like that feels pretty good. Oh, and it's in standard for 5 years. Like, oh, do you know what we could do? Like, do you know the fun stuff we could do with doubling season and standard? Like, if you're not a Magic player, none of this makes sense. But like, we're getting Deadeye Navigator got revealed in Innistrad. We're getting back Liliana, like 3-drop Lily. Like there's a bunch of cards I started playing with competitively getting reprinted in the new Innistrad set. I'm like,
Thankfully, just to
no, it's
make it
looking
clear,
good here.
thankfully Innistrad is not a standard release. Or is it? Is Deadeye Navigator
Yep.
the new standard? I thought it was
Yep.
remastered.
Oh, it might be in remastered. Either way, it's
Okay.
getting reprinted. I'm happy
Okay,
with that.
if it's yeah.
They just started
for one,
showing
do
the
not welcome
previews this
Deadeye
morning.
Navigator back into standard.
I just saw him and I was like, he's back, my boy's back. I didn't look at the validity of what's in standard, but like we're getting SpongeBob, we're getting Final Fantasy. Like I am totally okay with all of these things.
Would you say that you're ready? You're ready. You're ready. Would you go that far?
My body is ready.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what Lorcana does. I mean, They just released set 6. I'm also in Star Wars Unlimited. I'm in a lot of trading card games. And now I should clarify, I'm not playing a lot of them, but I am collecting them. I am buying them in bulk. I am reselling them. I'm picking up, like, I'm a big Star Wars fan. So, like, the new set 3 just came out with Ahsoka Tano, who is one of my absolute favorite characters. So I have a foil copy of her legendary sitting on my desk right now. There's I have a foil copy of the Mandalorian from set 2. Like, I may not be playing Star Wars Limited at a like high intensity level, but I'm still playing it, and I'm definitely collecting it because I love Star Wars, I love Disney, I love Pokemon, I love Gundam, I play Magic. So like, yeah, and I'm interested in Altered. It's on my radar. Whether we do anything with that or not, I'm still want to know. But yeah, there's so many great card games out in the market. Oh yeah, Dragon Ball Z. One of those Dragon Ball Z games is going to be gone in 5 years, guaranteed, if not
For
both.
sure. Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, like we talk about which games are we gonna play. So like, I'm never quitting Cardfight Vanguard. I love
Oh
that
yeah,
game to death.
that's your baby. Yeah.
That's my baby. And my favorite game right now is Union Arena. I probably could
I'm
drop
watching that.
Shadowverse if I
I'm
really
curious
wanted
if
to.
I'm curious if Union Arena will be around in 5 years. I don't know. It depends on their licenses because they're getting like they're hot off the gate, but like there's only so many licenses you can do. But I mean, like White Shorts has been around forever, so I don't know. I have no idea. I wonder if Union Arena is just going to be like their cash cow collector set where it's like we're going to pimp out the foils, pimp out the rarities, and just make cool stuff that people want. Because like
I feel good about it personally, but
I think it'll be
really like
fine. I don't think it's going to crap top 5. I really don't.
it definitely won't.
Like
There's
no,
no way.
like One Piece actually is picking up big, and I do love One Piece. And dude, the artwork for some of those cards is nuts. The foiling, oh, dude, some of those cards are just gorgeous. Like Bandai needs to share their secret tech on how they foil their cards because it is the jam. Especially looking at like Magic foils that are like, you know, they pringle up, and I'm like, come on. I know Magic can do better. Especially when you have their like Magic has their collector boosters with like the super high end rarities with the really good foiling, and then like their standard foiling is just it's like crap rainbow foiling. Like what? Why?
I'm a huge fan of just any sort of Japanese foiling. I actually have a card from Zillions of Enemy X right in front of me. I'm looking at the lines of foiling with this thing. It's like a wizard mage with like a tome book where she's like about to cast a spell, but the book has like a bunch of lightning bolts coming out of it, and like the lightning bolts are all gold foil.
Great foiling. I got to give them props.
Whew.
Pokemon is one of the most beautiful cards on the market right now. Okay, hot take.
Sure.
Who has the best card artwork and foiling on the market in your opinion?
Best card artwork and foiling.
So if you had to pick one game for, you know, their card art plus their foiling. So like you like Union Arena, it's their favorite game right now.
Yeah.
Is that your favorite card art foiling treatment? Like, you know, is that your high tone, or would it be something else? Clearly it's not Lorcana, but like you said Flesh and Blood. You like Flesh and Blood cold foils. Are the Flesh and Blood cold foils better than the foils from Union Arena? Like what do you think? What's your opinion here?
Yeah, I mean, like if we're talking about purely the Western market,
or your favorite. No, just in general. What's your favorite? What do you like the most?
My favorite, I mean, I just mentioned it. It's a game that approximately 2 of our viewers would maybe even know, if that. But yeah, Zillions of Enemy X, Japanese trading card game. The foiling pattern, the art, maybe it's not my favorite, but like the foiling itself, absolutely crazy. There's like several points of texturing. There's like different gold streaks depending on like where the cards are. Like just like the most crazy, insane foils you could possibly expect is where you'll see in that game.
No dual monsters, huh?
I don't think so. Dual Masters foils are actually kind of boring. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay,
they're kind of boring. Yeah.
I know Dual Monsters is always in your back pocket. I was like, oh, that didn't come up in conversation.
Dude, Dual Masters always in my back pocket.
But not for foiling.
Not for Not for foiling or having a game come out in the West that lasts for 2 years, apparently. So
Ouch.
I thought.
Sorry, Steve. We love you, man. It's okay. We got Lorcana from Steve
I
Warner.
mean,
He did
I
good.
think Duel Masters is still like top 3 best-selling game in Japan. So like, I mean, it has a happy ending somewhere. My friend Steve, my dear friend.
I do love those showcases from Star Wars, but
Awesome.
I think I've got to go with. Oh, I'm never selling that Krennic. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That Krennic is gonna get graded by PSA and is going in a safe. That was the first showcase ever pulled outside of the company from FFG. Like the first showcase at an event in the wild on the ground floor. I'm never ever
first pack.
Doing. Awesome. First pack, first card. It really did ruin my experience with Star Wars Unlimited. I'll have to tell that story sometime, but for people who don't know, Greg and myself and our old team member James Reimer, we all got invited out to the Star Wars Unlimited it was a big party where like 50 content creators got invited to open product, play games, and enjoy Star Wars Unlimited like a month and a half before it actually went to market. So this was like the first time anybody had ever gotten to play it. Like this was before they ever sent those boxes out to the content creators that got to review it. So we were the first human beings outside of staff employees getting to touch the product, open product, so on and so forth. And my first pack, the first card I saw in my entire Star Wars career was a Showcase Krennic. So it was literally like they're like, hey, you can start opening product and have some fun and build a deck. I opened my first pack. I'm like, I started yelling like it's a showcase. So I literally I can see it on my shelf. I have the very first showcase ever pulled in the world, and I'm never selling it. I don't care what it's worth. It's so cool. It's a great story to tell. And now
I think about that Star Wars event like once a month. It was awesome.
Oh yeah. We're going to be having Xander and Tyler on in a future episode to talk about game design. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's going to be fun.
Love to be
there. But yeah, my entire Star Wars career was slightly ruined by the first card I ever saw was the very first showcase. How does it get better than that? It doesn't.
I mean, you get another showcase.
It didn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Have you pulled another showcase since?
What did I pull? I think I flipped a Leia or something. It was like, oh, cool, showcase. And then I put it on TCG Player.
That's so funny. What would happen if you pull? What would happen if you pull the second Krennic? Would you keep the second Krennic?
Yeah, I would actually stockpile all my Krennics.
Yeah,
I would kill to pull an Ahsoka showcase. I'm thinking about maybe buying one in the future. I'm watching her because Set 3 just came out. So she's really hot right now, but maybe over time when more product hits the market, she'll go down a little bit and I'll pick her up. But like Ahsoka and Obi-Wan are some of my favorite characters. Like they're just fun. I love Obi-Wan. I love Ahsoka, which is great. But yeah, I mean, there's so many things we could talk about. And that's kind of the fun of this show is we're not relegated to a specific game, a specific system. And we have the freedom to talk about video games, card games, board games, all of the above. I think my favorite artwork right now is Pokemon. If I had to pick one, there's so many things they're doing great with their full arts, their alternate arts, their gold rares, the rainbow rares. It's just they have these like stained glass. I need to find that stained glass Magikarp. I really love that card.
Yeah,
it's so cool. Now, in terms of power level, that card is dog poo. It doesn't do anything. But in terms of like artwork, it's just so pretty. Oh, have you seen those new prismatic cards with EVs coming out in January? Have you seen anything with Pokemon? Oh, dude, some of those look great. And then there's the new Surging Sparks Pikachus that look cool. Pokemon's clicking all the check marks in my list of things I want.
Yeah.
But let's get on out of here. We've been here for a hot moment. Tell people
good job.
To people who you are, where they can find you, and then definitely pitch I know you're going to be doing your own podcast, your new show, and then you've got a TCG player store, so we can send people to get some singles from where you are and pick up some cool stuff. So yeah, plug all of your stuff, my man.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much that you can go to right now, but I plan to have a general trading card game show coming up soon. So, kind of akin to what you would see with like, Red Zone Rogue or Cosmic Plays, things like that. Just like a general TCG lifestyle channel, just talking about, I guess, the industry at large. And so that show will be coming soon. Probably not by the time this episode goes live, unless it's coming out a lot later down the line. But yeah,
Probably
you can find me over there.
January, give or take.
Okay, yeah, I'll endeavor to make the show live by then. Yeah, the show's name is called Debatably Playable. That's the pitch for it, basically. More like design focused. Again, like I'm a huge Melvin, huge game design nerd. I love talking about systems of games. I like talking about card design. I like talking about what makes card games fun in particular, so like a lot of us get this feeling when playing card games. We're like, wow, I'm having a lot of fun, but I kind of like dissecting and figuring out what is it that allows us to have this feeling where we go, yeah, this is really fun. I really like playing this game. So yeah, if you'd have me along for that, I would love to, have you there. Other than that, DB_playable on Twitter. Got my fresh new Twitter handle. Mainly going to be like a trading card game facts and, just fun fact Twitter account where I talk about a bunch of different design history throughout the years for Magic the Gathering and Duel Masters. And there'll be a lot of Duel Masters content on the channel, I'm sure, because... like Magic's joke where you say that every mechanic is kicker. Every card game, every modern Japanese card game is Duel Masters. This is a known fact by the Japanese community, and I hope to share it a little bit more with the Western community. And yeah, outside of that, tradingcardgameplayer.com/card curator. That's where I have my sales, over 4,000 sales and counting. Close to 100% feedback as well. Just a few short misses on there. But yeah, I would love to serve you by providing you cards as well. So yeah, that's everything. Thanks for watching this episode, and thanks for having me on, Mr. Sugiyama.
Well, it was great having you on. We'll definitely have you on for another episode. We'll talk more about a lot of other things. Initially, we were going to talk about Pokemon TCG Pocket, and we never did that. So we'll get there when we get there. But
not gonna lie, I burnt out of that game immediately. So I don't know if I would have been able to provide too much commentary.
Actually, when we're done, I need to open my packs.
I'm playing it daily, but I'm not playing. I'm playing the quote unquote gameplay, which is opening packs, but not playing the gameplay, which is the Pokemon cards.
I enjoyed some of it. It's a very simple version, but we'll get there another day. So thanks everyone for joining us. We will see you soon. Check us out on Twitter, YouTube, and make sure to subscribe to your local podcast aggregate. So we're going to be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and we're here to have fun. Kado Games, our mantra is play games, have fun. We want to make gaming simple. We want to make it accessible. So join us on our website for all kinds of cool stuff. You'll see episodes, you'll see articles. We've got trading cards up there. And if you've got any questions, feel free to send us an email, and we're here to help. So thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll see you all on the next time.